Welcome back to coverage of the double RCQ tournament today here as we are deep into our second day during the Ohio Valley MTG Invitational weekend. We already crowned a champion yesterday in the Invitational itself, but today we have an RCQ with 2 slots to give away. We're 3 out of 6 Swiss rounds in the books. We're about to start round 4. Ross, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to see some people battling for what is a likely top 8 slot. Now, it is not a guaranteed. Sometimes you get an odd number of 4-0s. People get a pair down. That unfortunately happened yesterday to one of our players, Gabriel Abadi, starting the tournament 4-0, got the pair down, took a loss, and then didn't have good enough breakers to draw in at 4-1, took a second one, and had that dagger 0-2 finish after the 4-0 start. But definitely a good chance of top 8 for our players that win today, and we're going to be featuring as many of those 3-0 on 3-0 matches as we can in this round.
Yeah, we are getting the matches situated as we speak. We should be going down there in just a few. For those of you just joining us, I'm Todd Anderson, aka Tandy, and this is Ross Merriam, aka Ross Hunnids. We've been having a lot of fun doing coverage this weekend at the Apex Home Store in Caldwell, Ohio. We've had a lot of great modern action over the last 2 days, and we're not quite done yet. We still got 6 more total rounds to go before we crown a double champion of sorts here on day number 2.
Yeah, not only a double champion qualifying for the regional championship at DreamHack Atlanta, also a good amount of money on the line, $500 to first place, $300 to second, $150 to top 4, and then $100 credit to the top 8 and $65 credit to the top 16. So about $2,000 total in cash and prizes there. And we are down at our match.
All right, on your right, Kevin Wong going to be on the play here, 3-0 with 4 color elementals. Fetching up a snow-covered forest, I believe, so we're going to be able to play Abundant Growth or some other 1-mana green card here, and it looks like it's going to be the play. On your left, Michael Jacob. Not that Michael Jacob, not the one from Michigan who has multiple Pro Tour top 8s, but a different Michael Jacob here. Playing Azorius Control, currently 3-0 as well, so this should be a long, grindy, interactive match.
Yeah, the Elementals is definitely the version of 4-color that has the highest upside when its engine is humming. But this is a matchup where the pitch Elementals aren't at their best. So maybe that means Risen Reave also not at its best.
Yeah, perhaps not. The Yorion here, obviously one of the stronger cards out of these Elementals deck, but one of the best uses of it usually is to put it in your hand and then pitch it to Solitude. That kind of makes Solitude into this weird split card where it's either a pitch Swords to Plowshares or it's a 3-mana Swords to Plowshares with you exiling the Yorion. But in this matchup, that Solitude not going to be very good, so maybe the Yorion not going to be that great. Not at least is not as diverse as it could be. Kevin Wong on a second turn goes for a Wrenn and 6, a Resolves, no Force of Negation from Michael, and a plus on a land. And here we go.
Okay, I've got a correction on Michael's last name. Actually, this is Michael Salem. He was one of our players yesterday.
I was playing a different deck yesterday. Yeah, I don't recall this Azorius Control deck being that popular out of these players.
I was going to say that as well. I do not think he was on Azorius Control yesterday. So yet another player deciding to switch to Azorius Control. We saw that earlier with... Who was that?
I forget. I think it was Youssef.
Yes.
All right, well, we have some action here. Michael Salem has an answer for the first Wrenn and 6 with a prismatic ending, but a second Wrenn and 6 from Kevin is going to allow him to keep generating some of that card advantage. That Yorion is in the companion zone, non-play, while the Wrenn and 6 is on the battlefield.
Yeah, that Wrenn and 6 is definitely one of the best cards Kevin Huang has in the matchup. Making all your land drops super important and is a threat itself if you ever get to that ultimate. Even in a deck that doesn't have many spells, you gotta have something.
Yeah. Draw for a turn looked like a Risen Reave. We'll see if that one comes online this turn. Wrenn and 6 pluses, and we're just gonna pass the turn with 4 mana up. I'm curious what Kevin has to do for 4 mana here at instant speed. An Archmage's Charm, end of turn from Michael to draw 2. Now we go back his way.
Yeah, just some lightning bolts, prismatic endings, and ephemerate. So not a ton to do with that Wrenn ultimate, but that's plenty. The bolts go upstairs, the ephemerates, protect all of your creatures, and the prismatic endings can answer a lot of Michael's planeswalkers. And with abundant growth, prismatic ending could even potentially answer a big Teferi.
Yep. Cycle of a Triumph here, and that's going to be a mini card draw engine from Kevin alongside the Wrenn 6. It is threatening to be potential late game ultimates to close things out with a lightning bolt or something similar. But for now, just going to keep getting back Roggen Triumph or one of those other Triumphs and keep cycling. Back Kevin's way. Has Eternal Witness in hand now as well. A lot of things to do. Let's see if he wants to use this mana aggressively or defensively.
So many cards in hand. You figure you're happy to just run things out and trade resources because you're generating extra cards every turn with that Renin 6.
Right, but you also don't want Michael to be able to use his mana that efficiently. So if you're able to use basically all your mana at instant speed to kind of filter, you can find a turn where you get to go 2 or 3 big spells in one turn, and maybe Michael can't handle both of them. Or you just have back-to-back turns where you double threats and then eventually you force something through. Michael here, though, heads up using his mana aggressively with the Archmage's Charm. Going to go ahead and draw 2 cards again, making sure he hits land drops, making sure that he's able to use his mana effectively. Kevin going to fetch again. This time looking for Snow-Covered Island. Probably going to cycle that Tri-Land again.
Some notable cards from the deck list that I've been looking at. Kevin Huang actually has an Emrakul the Promised End in his main deck.
Nice.
A lot of times you see that in the sideboard. That's going to be really useful in this matchup. Michael Salem has an Emrakul of his own in the sideboard. Also has a Dream Trawler in the main.
Nice.
Second in the board.
That card is a heater in Pioneer. Always kills me.
Yeah.
An Undeterred Solitude from Kevin. He's going to play a 4-color flash style strategy, getting that Solitude on the table. No target for the exile, but going to attack and gain 3 life. And perhaps Michael doesn't have a removal spell for it, or doesn't want to burn a removal spell on the weaker creature of Solitude.
Definitely have some life to play around with here, so no reason to get too aggressive with trading for a measly 3/2 lifelinker.
Risen Reef is the cast. Let's see if Michael has a response. Kevin, I grip full. The Renin 6 making sure that he hits every land drop, and with that cycling land, make sure he can turn those land drops into actual spells later in the game. But Planeswalker at 7, currently threatening to ultimate next turn. Risen Reef resolves. Top card, not a land. Lightning Bolt goes to hand. With Renin 6, that could be a powerful late game engine. And now we have a Wandering Emperor during the end step, and that's probably going to create a 2/2 and try to pressure the Renin 6 so it doesn't ultimate on the next turn.
Yeah, this could be really cool. If Salem has something like a Prismatic Ending to answer the Ren anyway, you can bait Kevin Hong into chump blocking, but no, has the Bolt there and decides to just get rid of that token while Salem is tapped down. I think that's smart.
Yeah, it also means that Michael might only have either Fire Ice as a potential way to shrink the Renin 6. Needs a Prismatic Ending. Number 2's already played 1. Or might have to do the Desperation land, activate Celestial Colonnade, and attack it for 4. Otherwise, the ultimate could just be backbreaking.
Yeah, well, already in the graveyard there. Oh, Snapcaster. That's going to get that
draw.
Prismatic Ending.
Yeah. Snapcaster Mage goes for Prismatic Ending. That's going to take care of the Renin 6, so no longer a viable threat on the following turn, but the shields are down. Let's see if Kevin Wong can do some dirty stuff on the next turn. Has another Risen Reef in hand. Maybe he can start doing crazy Risen Reef shenanigans with those pitch elementals now that there are 2 creatures on the battlefield from Michael's side of things.
Also notably, this is... Oh, no, that's 2 Abundant Growth, so it looks like Kevin's on 6 mana. I was going to say, I thought he was on 7. So with the land, he'd have enough to buy Yorion and cast it, but 1 short of that.
Well, Teferi, Time Raveler are going to be the cast here. Does Michael have a response?
Imagine this one will be bouncing that Night token should it resolve.
All right, looks like we are going to go for maybe Force Negation. Yeah. Oh, it's a Pitch Solitude. Okay, we're going to do that in response to the Teferi. So that means that Teferi's probably going to resolve, and that's going to freeze Michael out of playing a lot of that reactive magic. Right now, the shields are down, though, because he had to tap out to deal with the Renin 6, but the Solitude's going to eat the Risen Reef, and we'll see what Teferi goes after.
Still thinking, yeah, Solitude evokes, so that goes. Teferi resolves. Let's bounce that token.
Yeah, bounce token seems pretty good. It's going to deal with it permanently. Draw a card. Solitude to pick up. Could go Risen Reef into Pitch Solitude, get a little extra trigger, a little extra value, and then an attack with the Solitude can take care of the Wandering Emperor as long as there's not a 1-mana removal spell from Michael's side of things.
Yeah, we'll see how, how much value Kevin Huang places on that Wandering Emperor if he wants to go full-on evoke the Solitude in order to deal with it immediately when he does have a good amount of pressure on it regardless. And Michael Salem, not a lot of cards left back. I think that's 3 cards left in hand.
Yeah, with the Pitch Solitude, he's... Yeah. No, he's got like 4 or 5. He's doing okay. Not a whole lot of resources have been exchanged here. Just a casting of the Wandering Emperor and a couple Archmage's Charm give him +1 twice. So.
Sure. But it's a full grip on the other side in Kevin's hand, and he hasn't even bought the Yorion yet.
That's true. Let's see how Kevin wants to sequence this. He has an Embarrassment of Riches. Shields are down because Teferi's on the battlefield, so no response is coming from Michael outside of some sort of land or activated ability shenanigan that I may be not thinking about.
Yeah, not enough mana for Otawara. That would be the one thing, or a Jonjo.
Yep. All right, Risen Reef number 2 comes down, draws a card, finds a Prismatic Ending. That could answer something. Maybe not this turn, but...
Yeah, at this point, tapped out. If you had one more mana, it could have potentially Prismatic Ending the Snapcaster.
Yeah. Looks like we're thinking about Solitude on the Snapcaster Mage. That's going to allow Solitude to attack and kill the Wandering Emperor, but decides to pass turn and hold on to that potential exile or removal spell.
Even if Salem is able to clear your battlefield here, you can just Prismatic Ending the Wandering Emperor for 4.
That's true. That's true. All right. +1/+1 counter added to the Snapcaster Mage. Doesn't give Vigilance. I've gotten got by that before too. The tokens it creates has Vigilance, but the Snapcaster Mage itself doesn't. So if an attack is declared, it's going to be tapped and maybe leave the shields down. Probably going to hold it back and protect. Wandering Emperor, a powerful Planeswalker, not only in Modern now, but is dominating in the blue-eye control decks in Pioneer. That flash threat, really powerful alongside card draw effects like Memory Deluge, and here in Modern you see it alongside a lot of this instant speed interaction like Archmage's Charm to give you nice variability in gameplay.
Yeah, really takes advantage of players that try to slow down against you to make sure that, that they can pinch your mana on a given turn with your counter spells, and you just take advantage of that extra time they give you by slamming an Emperor on their end step and becoming the aggressor yourself. Wow.
All right, let's make sure that Snapcaster Mage is tapped. I'm almost positive the Wandering Emperor doesn't give Vigilance, it just gives First Strike. So that Snapcaster Mage should be tapped. It's just a minor thing, minor hiccup that will get fixed in just a moment.
That was a great turn for Michael Salem, regardless of whether the Snapcaster is tapped or not. Dealt with everything on Kevin Huang's side of the battlefield, and now has a formidable set of threats himself with the Snapcaster and the 2 Planeswalkers. Heck, this game turned in a hurry.
Yeah, Fire Ice doing a nice job here of cleaning things up. The 1 loyalty on the Teferi, the 1/1 Risen Reef, and now Kevin Huang looked like he was in a pretty big advantaged spot. Now just looking like he's on the back foot. We're gonna.
That's a Titania.
Okay.
And already played a fetch land. Going to return another one, so we can make 3 5/3s here.
Okay, gonna go ahead and crack 1. That's gonna allow him to create a 5/3 token, and he's gonna be able to use that mana. Probably gonna go fetch, looking for Prismatic Ending to take care of one of these 2 Planeswalkers.
Now Teferi can deal with one of the tokens should it stick around, but yeah, I guess that's eating the Prismatic Ending. So,
Humph. Nice little Charizard token there, and still with the ability to crack another fetch land here and make another 5/3.
Yeah, this Titania is very threatening. If you're Salem, you definitely want to see a Supreme Verdict here to clean all that up. Getting aggressive with our Snapcaster.
This just means the Supreme Verdict's coming. That Titania is pretty devastating, and there's no way you attack here in the face of these large monsters unless you plan on sweeping the board. So now Kevin's in a spot where he's got to tank on whether or not he's taking the damage or going to trade or chump block. But 4 damage a turn is pretty gross, but no Wrath effect. That means the Titania is going to get another creature here. I wonder what Michael has up his sleeve.
I'm doing the Settle the Wreckage check.
Yeah, might be a singleton, might be a 2 of. It's a card we see every now and then, but not one that's always there.
Todd, sorry, you made a huge blunder. That is a Dragonite. Chad's
It's a Dragonite.
Chad's very upset.
I'm so sorry. It's shiny foil. I can't tell. My director just made fun of me. I'm so sorry, Chad. I let you down. A lot of damage coming to face here. We'll see if Kevin wants to try to play around Settle the Wreckage. I don't even know that it's there, but
it is not.
We could activate Celestial Colonnade to block. Looks like everything went at the Wandering Emperor, so Kevin really having an emphasis on that powerful Planeswalker. Going to send everything that way, missing out on a lot of potential damage. Snapcaster Mage is to play end of turn. We'll see what it targets. Archmage Charm going to steal a token, and this might be a lethal attack coming through on the other side.
Yeah, Kevin leaving the shields down there to deal with that Wandering Emperor, and the Salem's like, nah, I'm the beatdown now. But we got
That was 4. That was 5. Cast a Solitude. Now, can choose to eat the token that's getting targeted with the Archmage's Charm to gain some life.
Yep.
I think this is a very heads-up play for
That was
Kevin.
the Solitude that was bounced by Salem's Teferi, right? On that first turn. Into bounce the Teferi, then fire the Risen Reef, and bounce the Solitude, then fire the Teferi and Risen Reef.
Yeah.
So, knew that one was there.
All right, here comes a big attack, though. This is going to be 10 damage. Let's see if Kevin has anything else to interact here. Michael putting a lot of pressure on. Not something you see out of control decks too often, but here comes Icefang Quaddle. Looks like we do have 3 snow-covered lands on the battlefield, so the Icefang Quaddle is going to have Death Touch.
Yeah, so
Solitude can block as well.
So we're going to make 2 valuable trades, get Salem's board down to just that Snapcaster, and end up gaining a life.
Yep.
Solitude will gain 3, it'll take 2 from that Snap. So a very good exchange of resources for Kevin Huang there. Really blunts the aggression that Salem is trying to present in order to steal this game, because Salem knew that he was behind on resources. And now we've got the Titania still going, 10 power. That Yorion is still sitting there. Yep. And several cards back in hand, including another Solitude.
And an Eternal Witness. So it feels like Kevin has things pretty well, maybe not wrapped up, but he's got a lot of resources at his disposal. Doesn't really have to do much of anything thanks to the Solitude in hand. Can kind of just pick his battles. I would have liked to have maybe seen him put the Yorion in hand at some point, but maybe just trying to hold up as much mana as possible for one of these plays, and doesn't want to overextend onto the board in the face of something like Supreme Verdict, which Michael did have.
And there it is. There are only 2 verdicts in the main for Salem, and I think they had a good chance to cast them earlier in that game, so that verdict probably came off the top.
All right, Kevin, no end of turn play. Could have played a Solitude. Wants to maybe hold it to stop a future Celestial Colonnade or some creature. I would have liked to maybe cast it just to get some beatdown on. We'll try to get life totals updated. I don't think it's 16 to 10, but I could be wrong. I feel like there was a big attack last turn that was maybe missed. But we'll get that sorted in just a second, or I could just be wrong. Either way. I was wrong about Dragonite. I can be wrong about anything. Teferi Time Raveler here, gonna maybe lock things out for Michael Salem if he doesn't have a third prismatic ending for it. And it looks like I was right. Down to 6 here is Michael Salem, so I would have loved to have seen that creature come down, the Solitude to pressure the life total. Only 2 attacks needed.
At 16, I would say no, don't cast it, but at 6, sure.
Yeah.
And notably, this is a Teferi cast with 8 mana left back, so we can Teferi into the Yorion if we want to with 2 Abundant Growths down. Instead, decides to go for the Eternal Witness, really trying to set up this Yorion as much as possible.
Yep. A lot of options out of the graveyard here for this Eternal Witness. Can get back Lightning Bolt, which represents half the life total from Michael. Could get back Titania. Looks like Titania is going to be the pickup. Cast this maybe. Oh, if they cast it, yeah, maybe save it for another turn, huh?
Yeah, but you want to put lethal on the battlefield.
It also does return a land from the graveyard to the battlefield, so you could just get back a fetch land and do it
itself
again.
It's 10. And honestly, if I'm Kevin Huang, I'm also bouncing my own Eternal Witness with that Teferi.
Yeah, it looks like it may have been ticked up to 5 already. We'll get that big dice put on it so we can have a bit better visibility here in just a moment. Something these players here maybe not used as much as us to playing in the feature match area. We've been drilled for years to always use coverage dice. The big black dice go on the -1/-1 counters.
And Planeswalker Loyalty.
And Planeswalker Loyalty. And the big white dice are the +1/+1 counters. So
there we go. Yeah, did tick that Teferi up to 5. I would have liked to see a bounce on my own Witness.
All right, so Argoth. Titania Argoth Protector here. Going to get back a land.
This is the punishing case. Now you're going to lose the Witness.
Yeah. I like your play. I like going to Teferi and then bouncing the Eternal Witness. It creates these cool chains.
Yeah.
Makes it hard.
You might say, even with the Titania and the potential token, 1 removal spell then leaves you at 5 damage when they're at 6, but with Witness in hand, you can rebuy the bolt.
Yeah.
So you still had lethal through a spot removal spell.
Kevin got a fetch here. Finds maybe the last fetchable in Rogran Triumph. The verdict here going to resolve. A 5/1 is made, or a 5/3 is made, and then it dies to the verdict. No harm, no foul. Yorion still potentially able to be grabbed and able to bounce multiple Abundant Growths. And life totals here just getting checked. It's currently 6 to 8 in favor of Kevin. And as the aggressor, he needs to try to close the game out quickly.
I don't know if Kevin's the aggressor right now. He is way advantaged on resources with that Yorion still sitting there.
Oh, that's true.
Salem, he's been in a defensive posture because Huang's the only one who had, pressure, and they're both at a relatively low life total. But I think the onus here is on Salem to try to end the game. He just doesn't have the resources to do so.
Yeah, his deck's also not constructed in a way that can do 8 damage very easily either. So, especially in the face of this Teferi Time Raveler, it's very hard to play these reactive elements. So, half of his deck's kind of locked down. We'll see if he's able to cobble together something over the next few turns, or if Kevin's just going to bury him in all this card advantage, as 4-color elementals tends to do.
Yeah, Fairy bounces Abundant Growth, Fairy draws a card, Abundant Growth gets recast, that draws a card. Now we're going to Yori in, blink the Teferi and the 2 Abundant Growth, draw 2 more cards, reset the Teferi, so next turn it can draw a card. I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, is it draw a card?
Yep.
Okay, draw a card combo. Can we change the deck name to draw a card combo deck? Just kidding. All right, so Yorin's going to be cast here. That's going to blink 2 Abundant Growths and the Teferi reset.
Didn't blink the Teferi.
Unfortunate. Maybe didn't want to have it be unlocked for half a turn, Don't want him to use that 2 mana on something. Maybe a Snapcaster Mage or something. I don't know. But opting not to. Michael untaps. Looking to cast a 4-mana card. Is this another Supreme Verdict just to kill Yorion?
There's only 2 in his main deck.
Main phase Memory Deluge. We have to do that because of the Teferi. We're also just aggressively digging for anything because we're very far behind. What are we looking for, Ross? You got the deck list handy, right?
4 fires.
All right. I think he's already cast at least 1, but Snapcaster may just make those numbers change every now and then.
And I'm not sure. He has the Triumph, right? So he has 1 red source. Yeah, not really sure. Another Wandering Emperor. There's 2 in the deck. Big Teferi would be good. There's only the Dream Trawler, maybe.
Don't quote me on this. I think Kevin has drawn his Emrakul, the Promised End. So no matter what Michael's able to cobble together, the game might be over already. Oh, here it is. A fire getting punished for not blinking that Teferi. Only at 2 loyalty after the minus, and Michael able to take it down. So perhaps next turn able to contain things. But for now, Yorion coming in for 4, unimpeded, more than likely. A handful of cards. So many resources at his disposal. Resource overload, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's Magic. You have 7 cards in your hand, so on turn 15, you should still have 7 cards in your hand.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
These days.
These kids don't know how good they have it.
Yeah. Remember Zombie Infestation? You know how aggressive I got with Zombie Infestation? I used to play it on 2 and just discard my whole hand for 3 2/2s, And I would win.
Just all in.
All in, baby.
Well, there's an Omnath, so this game should end pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it can actually go fetch land into Emrakul as well, but that might be running headfirst into a 3rd Supreme Verdict if it's peeled in a random spot on the extra turn or something.
Yeah. Well, no worries about that because there's only 2 in Salem's main deck.
So those are all gone. Perhaps a Snapcaster may be the concern. Perhaps just doesn't want to overextend or thinks he can win without it. But packing it in is Michael Salem at 1 life, and we're going to go to game number 2. Ross is going to take a look at the sideboards here and give us his expert analysis in just a moment, but that was an impressive display from the 4-color control deck, or 4-color elementals deck against Azorius Control.
Really impressive stuff from the elementals deck, outgrinding our control player. And looking at the sideboards, Salem's got a couple dress downs. They might be okay. Can mess with some of those Risen Reef triggers.
Yeah.
Got an Emrakul of his own. Definitely going to want that one. A Dream Trawler, I think, is a good card for just going over the top and applying some pressure as well. Mystical Disputes are great. Aether Gust seems solid. Celestial Purge. Basically, all of their cards are every color. So all of the color hosers end up being good.
Gust and Mystical Dispute both good, even though they affect completely different colors of cards.
Purge certainly the worst of them, but it still exiles Omnath pretty efficiently, and Omnath's really important. So I think I would still want one. Interestingly, 2 copies of Summary Dismissal here. That is very good against the opposing Emrakul, the Promised End.
Yeah, that was some technology back in that standard format that Emrakul dominated before getting banned. And I remember playing Summary Dismissal alongside Torrential Gearhulk, where I would just have them on 4 and then on 6, and I was just protected at all points. So cool tech there with those Summary Dismissals. We'll see if they can come in and be effective here. I think they're good.
Yeah, I agree. And then
they also get around Cavernous Souls. Not that they're playing it necessarily, but Some lists we saw yesterday were playing Cavern of Souls, and it's quite powerful in this type of match.
Especially the elemental versions, and there are 2 copies in Huang's list. There's also a 3rd copy of Supreme Verdict for Salem. Might want that one, just to help clear up various battlefields. On Kevin Huang's side, with 4 color, we got 2 Chalice of the Voids, 2 Fluster Storms, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Endurance, a Magus of the Moon, an Engineered Explosives, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Veil of Summer, and the Yorian Sky Nomad as a companion. The Veils seem good. The Fluster Storms seem good. Not really a big fan of anything else there.
I'm a little soft on Flusterstorm against the control decks because one of the cards that's most important against you is Supreme Verdict, and Flusterstorm not being able to stop that's also a huge bummer. I like it against stuff like Memory Deluge, but if it was Spell Pierce, I'd be a little bit more on board because that can target Teferi, Time Raveler, and Hero of Dominaria, and even Wandering Emperor as the game progresses. Flusterstorm a little bit more limited in what it can target.
Yeah, definitely the worst of the 2, and maybe Huang decides it's not good enough. I could also see the 3rd and 4th copies of Endurance coming in just as flash threats in the matchup, so you're not playing at sorcery speed as much. That might be better than, different removal spells or something else that's in the main deck. So I think overall, I like Salem's sideboard from the Azorius control side better than Huang's, but I think Huang seemed like he had an edge in game 1, so Salem's using that sideboard to compensate for a natural deficiency in the matchup because this Elementals deck is so good at grinding.
Yeah. And normally the control deck has an advantage in these longer games because they have Memory Deluge, Planeswalkers, but when you start playing against a deck where every single card says draw a card on it or is free to cast, you get into these spots where you just get buried in card advantage as the game goes along because you can't usually answer everything.
And those cards that are generating the card advantage on the 4-color side are threats. Yep. So they're both generating...
Risen Reef and Teferi Time Raveler.
Yeah. They're generating card advantage while also pressuring your life total with different creatures and Omnaths and Titania. So you, as the Azorius control player, don't have the time to deploy your slower sources of card advantage like Memory Deluge and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
All right, well, let's head back on down to the match and see if these players are ready to shuffle up and play for game number 2. Looks like the 4-color control player is still shuffling. Not sure if that's from a mulligan or just still waiting to present decks. We'll see in just a minute when he draws his opening hand. While we're between matches, just want to say big thanks to our sponsors for this weekend's festivities. G Fuel Energy Formula comes in both can and powder form, providing energy for those who need it, including me. I already had one this morning. Thanks to Wings Etc. Grill and Pub. Ross and I have eaten there twice this weekend already, and it's going to be a 3rd time later tonight. And then last but not least, LuxuryPlaystyle.com, premium metal tokens that you can use to flex on your friends and Commander. I'm a big fan of the treasure token that I saw. Those are not quite on the website just yet, but they'll be available soon. So make sure to check out LuxuryPlaystyle.com.
Hey, pretty slow start for both players. Not unexpected for this matchup. A lot of triumphs.
Yeah, a lot of triumphs. No one really under much pressure from either side in the early turns of most of the games. Wrenn and 6, I think, is the potentially devastating 2-drop from the 4-color Elementals deck, but outside of that, no creature's going to be beating down on the first couple turns, so Salem can keep slower hands as long as he has at least one answer to Wrenn and 6. This could be a counterspell, but it's not. It resolves, but then Celestial Purge takes care of it, so I guess he is okay bringing in the Celestial Purge because it answers Wrenn and 6, which is maybe the most powerful card in the matchup, but it also answers Omnath.
Yeah, answering those 2 is more than enough for your 1 Celestial Purge, and it did some work there.
Yeah, stopping the Wrenn and 6 in his tracks, but it did get back to the land, so still -1 card. And you're seeing the struggle of interacting with this 4-color Elementals deck, and the way that most people beat it is by ignoring it and just going way over the top with things like Primeval Titan or Tron. But this Blue-Eye Control deck doesn't have that luxury and is stuck trading 2 for 1 on the negative side almost every single time.
Speaking of 2-for-1s, here's a Risen Reef.
Yep, doesn't hit a land, but that card still goes to hand. Risen Reef does resolve. Michael Salem gonna fetch up an island here.
I'm guessing this is an Archmage's Charm.
Yeah, I guess choosing to draw 2 though instead of countering the spell, but chooses not to cast anything. Does he have Blood Moon in the sideboard? Did I remember hear that correctly? Maybe fetching an island in an attempt to maybe cast a Blood Moon here to try to steal a game from nowhere.
Don't think there's a Blood Moon sitting in this side, Brad.
Maybe just wanted to thin the deck. Risen Reef gets hit by Prismatic Ending. A second Risen Reef comes off the top. Still no land, but an extra card drawn. And you're seeing the velocity created by these spells that replace themselves. And these 1-for-1 removal spells just aren't cutting it.
They are not. Salem already a little bit low on resources, while Huang is still flush with them.
Every single card so far has replaced itself. 2 Risen Reefs, drew a card, running 6, got a land back, and now Salem 5 lands and 3 or 4 cards in hand, but Kevin Huang still has a Gritful 7. Risen Reef number 3 gets hit with a counterspell. See if there's any follow-up from Huang.
That was a very important one, since that Risen Reef was going to draw 2 cards, so very nice to have the counterspell. That probably came in the last couple turns, seeing as Salem did not counter the first Risen Reef.
Right. No land drop from Michael, so probably 4 spells in hand. Maybe has something like Solitude, but maybe not want to deploy it yet. We'll have to wait and see what he has. Wong attacks for 1 and then attempts Eternal Witness. It resolves and gets back Risen Reef. That is bad news for Michael Salem. This is going to be a cavalcade of card advantage. And I'll wonder if Michael has any way to actually catch up. He's going to maybe have to play Supreme Verdict next turn, or else Risen Reefs are just going to threaten to draw his whole deck.
Yeah, really will depend on what exactly is in Salem's hand, and you have to wonder what it is, because it's not more counterspells. It's not big pieces of card advantage like a Planeswalker, like any Teferi, Wandering Emperor, or big Teferi as well probably would have been cast. So is it just a pile of more removal? I wouldn't be surprised if Supreme Verdict is one of the cards, and even though it's a verdict killing 3 creatures, these are all creatures that generated card advantage. So you're not really getting back in the game with this verdict.
Yeah,
you're just treading water still.
Yeah, but the verdict does solve the temporary problem of the Risen Reefs just generating a ton of extra card advantage and mana. But again, this is a temporary reprieve. The Kevin Huang still has a full grip full of cards. Goes for a Titania Priest or Protector of Argoth and gets back one of those fetch lands. Can maybe play a fetch land from hand and threaten 15 power on the next turn worth of attacking
which would
creatures.
be lethal, and Titania is about the best follow-up to a Supreme Verdict that you can get.
Right.
I think Salem might have just drawn his 1 copy of Emrakul, which is not castable.
Yeah. So we have a fetch land here that's going to trigger. It's going to put a 5/3 onto the battlefield, and as long as Kevin didn't miss the trigger. And Michael might need to play a Solitude or something here in response to actually provide him with some cover.
Well, Solitude will exile the Titania and then potentially trade for the token. So we've cleared up that problem relatively cleanly. A 1-for-1 actual 1-for-1 answer to the Titania.
Yeah, but now the shields are down. 5 mana tapped.
Yeah,
and
so
Kevin Huang going to his turn now.
What other nonsense is Kevin going to get up to here? Oh, that's a lightning bolt off the top, I think. So that'll clear away the Solitude. And now the Titania token gets to rumble.
Yeah, smashing for 5. Kevin Huang still with a boatload of mana. Shields are down from Michael's side. Could play another threat here. It looks like he might be counting up Delirium or something. Could have an Emrakul hiding on hand, and I believe he does. I think he's a little short. Omnath here, a fine follow-up, though, to what's already what's already happening.
It does basically the same thing as Emrakul. Win the game.
Yeah, easily. Hand full of cards. Kevin Huang, ahead on mana, ahead on board, ahead on life.
Fetch. So this could potentially bring us to 8 mana. Is there 5 types in the graveyard? Probably not.
I mean, maybe. We have creature, land, instant, and Planeswalker got exiled. So maybe not. Maybe just short. But going to go ahead and fetch and generate some mana and maybe cast, bring back the Yorn in hand. Okay, I like that play. Uses the mana. Salem untaps.
And just in case you thought Kevin Huang might have been running out of gas, yeah, the Orient is also there.
All right. Dream Trawler is the play for Michael Salem, but I got some bad news for you. When Mindslaver hits you and you got a Dream Trawler on the table, you don't have any cards anymore. They're all gone. So here we have Kevin Huang untapping. Probably can get this Emrakul onto the table this turn. I don't have it 100% just yet, but we'll see how he sequences this turn and see if he can get it online. Michael Salem declines to block, takes the hit for 5. He's down to 2 life. Can Kevin Huang do the last few points here, or is he going to get flashy with this Emrakul? He played a non-fetch land, so doesn't have the burst of mana. Decides to go for the Emrakul, has just enough. 3 cards in hand for Michael Salem, and they're all going to get discarded.
Yeah.
If I were Michael, I would have ended turn discarded my hand, because it's going to get discarded no matter what, and you don't want to give your opponent the ability to do anything, but it looks like it doesn't really matter. Michael's going to have 1 turn window basically to draw Supreme Verdict, and if he doesn't draw the Supreme Verdict, the game ends. But even if he does draw a Supreme Verdict, he's probably still going to lose.
Yeah, there's still the Yorion back in hand and several other cards. And you're at 7.
All right, Michael passes turn. Perhaps a Cryptic Command or something to tap the creatures. We go after attacks. We're going to eat the Emrakul. Kevin's going to gain 13 life.
Yeah, but now you just Solitude the Solitude. We got one in hand for Kevin Huang. No, don't let him block.
No,
Okay,
yeah, so we're
looks
going
like
to
he stopped
Solitude
it.
before blocks. Now, that is going to gain him some life, but I guess the writing's on the wall. He's just going to pack it in. And we have Kevin Huang winning the match
Yeah.
2-0. Kevin Huang going to be 4-0. Very likely to be able to double draw into the top 8 elimination rounds here. Great showing from that 4-color elementals deck. And you got to wonder, why didn't more people top 8 yesterday with that deck? Because it looks pretty messed up.
Well, we've seen several control decks today. We didn't see a lot of control yesterday. I think there was only one in the field.
Yeah, TJ was playing it.
And I think he died early. So having some more control for these Risen to prey on potentially help them. Maybe people figuring that 4-color would decline with its poor showing yesterday, were playing decks that are worse against 4-color and better against what did do well yesterday, thus making the metagame better for 4-color itself. So
All right. Well,